the Deathmatch Enforcer, the Bev, Bobby Beverly, the current TOD champion, and you're watching Drinking and Moe's.
All right, everybody, welcome to Drinkin' and Moe's. Host Big Mo here. I am excited today because I have with me the winner of the most current CZW Tournament of Death, the Bev. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be here. I know we've been trying to get this going for a minute, so finally back home and not in crappy hotels with crappy Wi-Fi. So let's get it going.
I know how, especially some of those smaller hotels, how the Wi-Fi ain't always the best.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't even play video games, man. Not cool.
Oh, that's the worst. When
Right.
You're gone for a while and you bring your console with you and you can't even use it.
Couldn't stream. Just watching old school cable TV in the mountains, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But, yeah. First thing I like to start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you started, your jump into the business.
Okay. As a fan, I can't really pinpoint like one specific thing. I just know my dad was into wrestling, and my grandmother, I think, was a bit into wrestling. Well, she was into it until she found out it was fake, and then she hated it. But I knew she was into it. There's a weird story there, but I won't go too deep into that. But so just kind of as a kid, like, naturally, just kind of like wrestling at the time. Wrestling was really hot. I grew up, it started with Hulk Hogan, and then it bled into the Attitude Era. So, I mean, wrestling was like the cool thing. But what really got me deep into it would have been probably like ECW, that era. I think a lot of people say that, but it was just the way it was stripped down. It was more raw. It was more believable. And it was, even for someone like me, knowing I was going to be probably a small guy in terms of, like, compared to that era of wrestlers, ECW felt like something that could be achieved. And I guess for once, like in my life, even as a young kid, I felt like I could be a professional wrestler from watching that. So I guess that's where it really, really started for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you want me to go further into like how I actually got into it.
Yeah.
So just being a huge fan of it, it was something I always told everybody I wanted to do, even through like high school. Like, I played sports, but I was always the guy that, like, all my friends were like, I wouldn't say made fun of, but they always joked around with me about wrestling and stuff. I had my own nickname, which was Rob Steele. I was Rob Steele. The real deal was sex appeal. And that was like my backyard slash I call it bedroom wrestler. I never backyard wrestled. I wrestled in my bedroom against my Hulk Hogan buddies and stuff, So that my friends always kind of knew I was big into wrestling, kind of stuck with me. It's always something I wanted to do. A lot of different things happened. I was big into football. Thought I was going to go play football, but I was a 5'8" quarterback, so that wasn't happening. Went up to college for a little bit, and just that wasn't really the thing I wanted to do. And then eventually I joined the Air Force, and I didn't actually make it to get deployed to like basic training. There was kind of a snafu we had, and I wasn't interested it became a point where I just wasn't interested anymore. And my dad was always real against me going to the military for whatever reason. So I kind of got the wrestling thing in there, because I was like, well, if you don't want me to go to the military, what about being a professional wrestler? And he didn't want me to go to the military. So he's like, absolutely, go for it. And, anytime before that, it was like, you're a little small. I don't think you could do it. This was kind of, still that old era a little bit, So the girl who is still with me today, after 16, 17 years, she actually would drive me to Cleveland, because there was a local wrestling show on television that would usually air after like Cleveland Indians games in our area. So that's how I knew about it. And then, the internet was still pretty new thing, but I would get on the internet and search about it. So they had a training school. So eventually I just got her to take me up there and started training. And thankfully for her, because I had no good transportation, she'd come up, sleep in the car, let me train, and it just kind of started from there.
Seems in ways kind of similar to how I first got started into, being a fan, where
Mm-hmm.
the age of, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors, those guys were some of my favorites. And just
Road
seeing,
Warriors are probably my favorite tag team of all time. Those guys are just cool, man. Monsters. Badass
all,
dudes.
I actually got to see them live once. It was a Monday Night Raw taping. And oh man, I don't think there's ever been anybody else that has ever gotten me to be on my feet from literally the moment their music hit to the moment they went back.
That's awesome.
I was hooked. And
That, like, seeing guys like that, I take what I do, like my style of wrestling, like the violence that I try to portray, and I take a lot of it from them. Because if I can get that same kind of reaction from bell to bell, actually from music to end, start of music to end of music, when those guys come out, like you said, people are just on their feet, ready to see the show because they know it's about to get violent and it's about to get wild. So I kind of try to play off that, and kind of take that with me too, and that's a lot from watching those guys back in the day.
oh yeah, no, that it would be hard to not, especially in guys our age, to not find some sort of influence in those guys, because I mean, there's a and they call it the Road Warrior pop.
Yep.
But
Yep.
We in the little introduction, I mentioned the CZW Tournament of Death, and you're known as Deathmatch Enforcer, and I've always been curious what draws people that go into wrestling to go into deathmatch wrestling in particular, because that's a whole nother damn ass.
Right. So I think like it goes all the way back to where I talked about ECW and just that stripped down, realistic, violent nature of wrestling. There was something that when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is wild. This is crazy, but I love this, and I spent 12, 13 years wrestling before I ever did death matches. But death matches was the one thing I still always wanted to do. As some of my friends started getting into it, I wasn't quite sure like what route to take. I spent a lot of my years not really uh, pushing for bookings, not sending out emails and matches and things like that. And I've done a lot, but I have a lot of friends that have been very successful, and they've kind of helped me along the way. So once I finally did get the chance to do death matches, I knew that I don't want to stop until I'm the best death match wrestler in the world. It's just a feeling. I was telling someone recently, I was big into football. High school football, Friday night in Northeast Ohio is a huge deal, like it is in a lot of like southern places and things like that. And there's when I would come out that tunnel under the lights and the people were going crazy, and I'm going leading my team on the football field as a quarterback or whatever. The only time I ever get that same feeling is when I'm in the wrestling ring, and especially when I'm in a death match and I've got the crowd in the palm of my hands and they're just eating everything alive because they just believe all of it. There's no better feeling than that. And that's a feeling I got at a young age, and that doing what I do now, I still continue to be able to get.
Oh yeah, no, there is that feeling. And they a lot of people, when I know I've heard some people, podcasters, that have mentioned when they get that little bit of a taste of
Mhm.
getting to do ring announcing for somebody, or getting to be a part of the show,
Yep.
and just that reaction from everybody is
Yep.
like. And
Yep.
I've been lucky that I got to experience that, well, where I got to be a special guest ring announcer one time, and good lord, it's like like I said, it's like that bug.
Yep.
I got a taste of it.
I've I don't hold anything back a lot of times. I've done a lot of stupid shit in my life. I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and there is no better high than when you're in that ring and people are reacting to you. It's crazy. It's insane.
Oh yeah, nope. I can completely understand. It's that, you know, I've actually spoken to a few people that have had past, substance issues, and they're in wrestling, and it's almost like, man, this is a better high than I ever got off of that.
Mm-hmm. It keeps a lot of people off of stuff, keeps them going. You know what I mean? Keeps them sane, keeps their life together because it just gives them something to go after, and that feeling is crazy. Like I said, it's insane.
And I've speaking of crowd reactions, I've watched a handful of the Tournament of Deaths, and this year I haven't got to watch any of it yet, but seeing little clips here and there and pictures, I can only imagine the crowd reactions you got there, because I mean, some of the names I've already spoken to Brad Cash.
Yep.
But your first round Otis Koger, which pardon me if I mispronounced any name, but that right there, and then you go to your second round guy that's making a splash all over the place, Big F and Joe,
all over the world. Yeah,
all over the world. And then your person you met in the finals, I'm one to say it was Bull Bronson that mentioned to me that they've been in intergender matches, and there's some that's like, really?
right.
But the person you met in the finals was one person that they said, put me with them anytime. I don't.
Yeah, Mickey Knuckles brings it more than most guys that I've been in the ring with. I mean, it's painful to wrestle her, but in a good way. I mean, she brings it more than a lot of the guys, and that's a credit, to her and her success that she's had in deathmatch wrestling. I told her, everybody, after it was over, that even though she didn't win or whatever, that she was absolutely a legend in deathmatch wrestling and one of, if not the best deathmatch wrestlers ever in this country. And that doesn't matter, man or woman. That's how good she is.
Oh yeah, no, there are definitely those female wrestlers that it's like, I've actually discussed it with a couple, that one just recently out of California, Ruby Reyes, they dub her the equal opportunity ass kicker. And everything I've ever seen and ever heard of Mickey Knuckles, she is every bit that. Because
Absolutely.
just like deathmatch wrestling, there's people that are fans of and detractors, and same with intergender wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I always look at it is, if everybody wants equality, everybody wants same level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So what better way than to just, regardless of gender, if you can go, just throw them in there.
Exactly. And I think that was special about this TOD final, was that it was me and her in the final, because there was some talks of some other people, a couple different opponents, but ultimately it came down to her. And I think that made it a lot more special. And you said you haven't got a chance to watch it, but I've heard nothing but great reaction, which I was nervous about. CZW hasn't done death matches in a while. They've been down a bit. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but they put a great field together. There was a great turnout, and I think this tournament will hold up with some of the best tournaments they've ever had. I don't think anyone will look at it and think it's not on the quality of TOD. It definitely was and is.
Oh yeah, no, I can I can agree everything that I've been hearing. I can't wait to be able to go and watch it. And you mentioned CCW had kind of gotten away from deathmatch wrestling for a little bit. So when I saw that they were bringing Tournament of Death back, I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Because I've seen, like I said, a handful of the tournament. Like they always produce not only some intense wrestling, but some damn crazy moments. What was it? Nick Gage almost died at one.
He did die, yeah, for I think
Oh,
7 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
Bring it back, yeah.
Yep. In the helicopter, I believe he was dead. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
COD. Yep.
do remember that now. I forget which one, but I do remember I watched that one in particular. And before they got him in the helicopter, he was trying to get, just patched
Yep.
up and back out
Yep.
there.
100%. That's Nick.
Oh,
That's
yeah. No, he is definitely another breed. And, we brought up Mickey Knuckles, another promotion that she's been somewhat involved in that, in doing my homework for the episode, you've actually had a couple of matches. XPW,
Mhm.
but they've been on their rebirth, as they had that first show of theirs titled. It's interesting because they've been kind of coming under a little bit of heat for a storyline they did, but the death match aspect of it has definitely been every bit the XPW that I remembered from like back,
Yeah.
or they
Well, I mean,
show.
there are three main pillars in that company. The three guys that are pretty much like exclusive to them for the most part would be Schlack, Masada, Necro Butcher, and those three guys those are pillars of deathmatch wrestling. I mean, of the entire community of deathmatch wrestling. When there's Mount Rushmore, they have to arguably be some of the faces on it. So to have those guys leading that division, that's a pretty special thing for them.
Oh, that is true. Necro Butcher has definitely been. I actually just believe he added me on my show's Facebook page. He is definitely, hyping everything up,
Mhm.
and as he should. If you want to be considered the leader of the locker room, you gotta be behind the product, punching it out there. And
And I know by personal experience, the product is behind him also, because Dylan had, some issues coming back with people, booking him and stuff. Everyone's got their opinions on things and stuff, but XPW was fully behind him, and now he's obviously fully behind them. And I fortunately got to work with him just a couple weeks ago, which
yeah,
was a dream of mine. Me and him go pretty far back, actually. Before I ever did deathmatch wrestling, we did a dark match, or not a dark match, a squash match in Ring of Honor,
I
when
was
he was the crown jewel of the embassy at the time.
mm,
And he beat me up. Well, everyone thought he beat me up. We kind of connected right away. He lived at the time really close to me, and he's a big baseball guy. He would go to baseball games. We have a minor league team right in my hometown. He would go there, so we just hit it off right away. Started talking about that kind of stuff. We went out there, had a fun little squash match, but kind of fooled everybody. Everybody thought he really just took it to me, and I mean, he completely took care of me. It was a pretty cool moment in the back, just coming back, and I'm like, oh man, Necro just beat you up, and like, no, not really. Like we played all of you, like we had some fun out there. So becoming kind of like friends with him and getting to getting a little bit closer to him, and then he kind of drifted away for a while, so I didn't see him for a while. It was really special to get to go one on one with him. It was awesome.
he is definitely one of the, like you mentioned, Mount Rushmore, or this or that deathmatch wrestling in particular. He has to be in the argument for one of the faces on there, because when you think
Yeah.
of especially deathmatch wrestling, you think of him out there barefoot just going
I think
nuts.
in terms of popularity, he might be the greatest deathmatch wrestler ever. Just because I mean he was in the movie The Wrestler with like a key role He's had 20 some tours to Japan. I always tell him, when he seems like if he's down on himself or something, I tell him you fought Bob Sapp in Japan. Like Bob Sapp, when Bob Sapp was like a big deal, he fought him in Japan. Like he's he's some of the most popular wrestlers that you see today that started in Ring of Honor when Ring of Honor was, huge. They love the Necro Butcher. He's their favorite wrestler, and for him to be a barefoot death match wrestler, to be able to be like on their level at that time in Ring of Honor and stuff. I mean, he
Yeah.
transcended deathmatch wrestling.
Oh yeah.
I think he's possibly the greatest of all time.
Oh yeah. I remember. Oh, I wanted to say I bought a Ring of Honor DVD where I wanted to say it was like bloodiest matches or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to say it was during a feud that they had Ring of Honor with CZW that is like, holy crap, that's where I first really got introduced to Necro
I
Butcher.
think they did like the big ROH CZW Cage of Death, which was a pretty big deal. And I mean, in his match with Samoa Joe is like legendary. People still talk about it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was a killer one. But moving on, another promotion, not just concentrating on CZW there, but you've had people see ICW No Holds Barred recently, and I within the last year or so actually got introduced to them, and it's like, holy crap, like some of the stuff that those guys come up with, those where it's the ring ropes are replaced by chains. They just recently had another one of their fight pit shows, and it's like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ICW is. ICW is essentially home for me. If ICW is where I've had my biggest matches, I mean the majority of my biggest matches. Danny and ICW gave me the platform to be able to show what I can do. And he let me hold nothing back, and he's given me nothing but the best guys in deathmatch wrestling to wrestle. I mean, if you're booked at ICW, you're one of the best guys in deathmatch wrestling, regardless. So I've had nothing but great opponents, great matches there, and it's definitely it's I would say it's definitely my home. And they're the only promotion that's really going out and giving you a 100% death match show every single match, and killing it, giving you variety, different characters, different stipulations. No one else is doing it like that. GCW, it kind of started like that, and that's kind of where ICW's picked up. Like they've filled that void where, because GCW just kind of expanded. ICW is that deathmatch promotion. They are the premier deathmatch promotion. I mean, probably in the world, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. They definitely got. There's one that actually just got started out here in a state over in Iowa called Mid Death Pro, where they're pretty much doing the no ring.
Yeah, yep. I think that's the Carver. I believe that's the Carver that handles that. Yeah, I've heard good things about it for sure.
Oh yeah, I've been debating going out there because Carver actually comes out here to Omaha quite often, so I'm fairly.
I was supposed to work with them for the first time yesterday, but there's some things got mixed up with my work and travel, and I wasn't able to make the show. So hopefully we'll get to do it sometime soon.
Oh yeah, I think their last show for the year is actually coming up. I'm wanting to say this coming Friday, but with it being Thanksgiving and stuff, being in town, I don't know if I'll be able to make this show. Definitely planning on it because they some crazy stuff. But ICW, I remember I first got introduced to them when I was interviewing the SATs, and they mentioned
independent wrestling legends.
Oh man, they've become You
We've been
know,
wanting to do SATs versus 440 for a while. I'm hoping it happens somewhere at some point.
oh, that would be killer. I'd definitely be keeping my eye out for that one because I remember, what was it? There was a tweet, like a retweet of mine that I did from B Boy,
Okay. He's
and
awesome. Bro.
oh, God, I got I got to see him a bunch when I was stationed out in California,
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
the SATs actually liked the tweet, and I'm like, wait a minute. And this was right around the time that they had been going up against advertised matches of like the Briscoes, the Hardys, and
Oh, heck yeah.
stuff. Like, holy shit.
Yep. Yep.
So then I just reached out, like thinking, this could be a long shot, but here.
Yep.
And then we ended up doing that, and you know, just like I normally do, doing my homework for the episode and seeing some of the stuff that they've accomplished. I mean, shit,
Mhm.
invented the damn Spanish fly of all
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, those guys would always when they would see us 440 boys, they would just put us over and and talk about, oh, you guys are doing such great things and we love everything you're doing. In the back of our heads, we're like, you guys are legends, man. Like we're happy to be here on the same show as you. You know what I mean? Like, and me and Aaron Crime, like, we want to wrestle these guys, like we got to make this happen. So I hope it happens one of these days before they decide to not do it again.
Oh yeah, and I mean they're doing amazing things now with they got their wrestling school they've opened up.
Yep.
They got a promotion they're trying to get up off the ground, and then they're still doing all the traveling they're doing.
Yep. It's great to
Amazing.
see guys like that and from that era giving back to wrestling and still trying to, train and help the new generation.
Oh yeah, yeah, because you always see, and well, you see and hear those stories of people from you know back in the day, for the lack of a better way to put it, you know, hearing stories of them like wanting to cling on to their air quote spot
Hmm.
and not
Yep.
really wanting to help anybody out.
Yeah.
And you run into guys like those
Yep.
guys, and
Yeah. When I
that's
started in 07, 08, it was tough. It was really hard to break into the business. Didn't really matter where you trained, what you look like. I mean, everybody just, yeah, like you said, kind of was clinging to their spots. A lot of people weren't helping people. I feel like it's really come a long way nowadays, where you can go to a good school and you can come out of there and get good matches right away. And you got a lot of the veteran guys that are still around are actively trying to help now, and it's a good thing to see.
oh yeah, and you bring up you know reputable schools. I mean, they're they're all over the country if you really go
Hmm.
looking. Like I mentioned, SAT's got their one up in New York. You got
Yeah.
Tammy Callahan, Alex Scalone, Jake Chris, and those guys opening their one up here. You
Yeah, when
got
I started, it was hard to find a school. I mean, it was far and few between, to find somewhere to train at. So it's good to see that there's plenty of good quality schools now.
oh yeah, and I mean you go and it's literally like each part of the country has at least two or three
Hmm.
really reputable
Yep.
schools that you might have to do a little bit of traveling, but if you're really wanting to break into the
Mhm.
business and get proper training, there are those people out there that are legends that
Absolutely.
up.
And there's plenty of schools now too that are connected to the bigger promotions, which is nice to see. Because when I started, that wasn't a thing. There wasn't a school you could go to, and they had some kind of connection to the big promotions. Those were like OVW and Deep South or whatever it was called. And those were like specific training schools. You almost basically had to get invited to. It wasn't like it is now where there's a lot of guys under contract that have their own schools that are training young kids and they're getting huge opportunities. That's nice to see.
Oh yeah, like oh, what was the one I was just that the one of the schools that I just brought up, who Sammy Callahan, when he
Exactly.
up, he's he's got his own promotion in Revolver that
Exactly.
he also has his connections to,
Like you
you know,
said, he's in
Impact.
Impact. Exactly. Yep. Yep. No
So,
doubt.
oh man, what it and oh well, you know what? I have a couple categories that I was just thinking of one of these guys that I have in my little name game category where I name off some people that you've shared the ring with one way or the other, teaming
Okay.
with the opponents, and you give me your thoughts. I
Okay.
will actually lead off with this one because I recently, at a Revolver show, got to see my first, the way I put it, legit death match, and not one of those hardcore matches that is getting disguised as a death match.
Gotcha.
But Jake Chris versus Joel Bateman,
Mhm.
and the ending to that was insane. But first name for the list, Jake Christ.
Jake is one of the absolute best wrestlers in the world currently. I love Jake so much. We he started a little bit earlier than me, but we both came up through Ohio, so I've always known of him. I would say early in my career, I didn't have necessarily the, just to be honest, like the best opinion of Jake. Just that, like, just I don't know, behind the scenes, I guess. Nothing he did wrong. Just
No,
just me, whatever. But as we've grown through the years and we've gotten closer through like Circle Six, and I've talked to him about some serious issues and things. Jake is a wonderful human being, a wonderful person. I love him to death, and he is, I believe, one of, if not the best wrestlers in this country. I mean, that man deserves a contract. He can wrestle anybody, any style. You want to put him in a death match, he'll have the best death match on the show. You want to put him in a regular match, he'll have the best regular match on the show.
oh,
And he'll do it against anybody. Jake is phenomenal. Absolutely.
oh yeah. I was lucky enough to have him on the show a couple months ago, probably a few months ago now, but it was right after the whole video that he posted with the fiasco with the IWA Mid South when
What started the fire starter, Jay Chris.
where
Yep.
that he started,
And right
and
after that, he started with Circle Six. Well, he essentially started with us in the beginning. Circle Six, not saying us, but like 440, Jake Christ, and a couple other guys. We see Circle Six as like almost like a home, also, right,
yeah,
kind of by ICW. So it's been great to be able to get a lot closer to Jake, travel with him, stay with him, and just watch him do what he does because he's amazing.
oh yeah, I reached out to him like I said, right after that video came out, and I'm like, oh, the conversation I kind of had with him reminded me of when the story Paul Heyman has when he invited Steve Austin to ECW, where he's
Mhm.
like, "You got a grievance, I got a show, let's air it."
Exactly. Yeah.
That was
Yep.
pretty much the same, and I had so much fun talking to him, and
Mhm.
when I
And
saw him,
it's good that he's had the opportunities to air, some of his laundry and grievances, because he unfortunately got lumped into some shit that he had nothing to really do because of his, his brother and friends and some other stuff. And that's absolutely not Jake, and he had nothing to do with any of that. He's 100% an upstanding person, great father, role model, and hell of a wrestler.
oh yeah, and we actually went into a little bit of that. We won't go into too many
Right.
details now, but yeah, no, that was unfortunate for him. But yeah, he is the standout guy. You know, he's had he's working on his sobriety and doing amazing there.
Mhm.
And good lord, I'm trying to think.
Me and him have talked, and he's actually inspired me when it comes to like sobriety and things like that. I won't get into details and stuff,
Oh,
but that's how I feel about him.
oh yeah, and I actually got to talk to him after the Revolver show through a little bit, and we had a little bit of an update from when I talked to him for the show that, I mean, I've discussed on the show before, so I'm not, too afraid to talk about it. My wife and I were expecting twin girls that were actually, their due date was supposed to be uh, this last Friday.
Mhm.
And they ended up being born premature and only made it about a week.
Right.
And
For that, man.
we
I've dealt with kind of the same, not quite that far. Like we didn't get that far along, but far enough to where you have like what's called an ectopic pregnancy. It's far enough along that they have to go in and actually take this child out. And I know how difficult that can be. So
oh
definitely feel for you there.
yeah, and it was really nice getting to talk to him about it because I've not really been ashamed to admit that I've definitely had my struggles with stuff.
Hmm. But I will
And,
tell you, after that, so would have been our first child. We were kind of trying at that time. Not too long after that, we got pregnant again, and now I have an 8-year-old son from that. So, it gets better. 100%. It'll work itself out, and
oh yeah, yeah. No, we're talking about trying again. So you know, we'll
absolutely.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on with the list, we talked a little bit about him. Necro Butcher.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much said it. I think he's a legend in the deathmatch game. One of the smartest, if not the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life. The man is a genius. And I don't, whatever people say in their opinions, he's a great person. I'm sure he's had his battles and his demons, but as I know him, he's a wonderful human being and a wonderful wrestler. I love Dylan. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, and you know, lots of people have their demons, their difficulties, or however you want to put it. And it's really all about how you at least attempt to bounce back from it. And
Exactly.
he seems to be doing quite the damn good job from what I
I
can
mean,
tell.
yeah. I mean, the man was basically diagnosed dead from cancer, and here he is, stronger than ever. Honestly, heavier and stronger than ever. And let me tell you, heavier and stronger than ever by experience. I know from 2 weeks ago, that man is stronger than ever. He put it to me.
Um, well, next on the list, we talked a little bit again about him being one of the kind of pillars of the XPW death match division, Schlack.
I love Schlack. Me and Schlack text probably once a week or so, just to kind of keep in touch. He is a lot of people might not know it because he's just this crazy cartoon persona. One of the best people that I know. If you're a friend of Schlack will do anything for you. Um, and he's like one of those, like, he's a benchmark guy. I was actually recently interviewed for something, and they asked about like one of my like favorite matches or most proud moments, and it was actually getting to go one on one with him at ICW. And it got a great reaction from the crowd. I've heard nothing but great things. Because a lot of my friends would always joke with me and say, "Oh, because I just got into the deathmatch game not too long ago, that you're going to get your turn. You're going to get your turn with Schlack. It's your turn now." And I'm like, bring it, let's do it. I want my turn. So to be able to like wrestle him and if get his respect and be able to go on his level, because he's a different level. He's a different style. Like there's deathmatch wrestling and then there's Schlack wrestling, and Schlack wrestling is a different thing altogether. So if I can have his respect and if I can go on the Schlack wrestling level, then yeah, that's all I need when it comes to deathmatch wrestling, getting respect from certain wrestlers. I love Schlack to death. Love him.
Oh yeah, I remember some of the first times I saw Schlack matches, and it's like, holy shit! Like my jaw literally just the
Mhm.
friggin' time. And you
I
know,
think he's like the if you watch like a lot of the old school like CZW, and some of it was just like these two monsters just going at it. Nothing makes sense. It's just like two wrecking balls destroying everything and everybody and each other. He is that type of guy to me. Like he's that throwback. He's like, yeah, I don't know. He keeps like the past deathmatch wrestling alive in a way. You can go out and wrestle him, and those fans that love that chaos, you're gonna get it with Schlag.
oh yeah, no, one of those guys that I definitely would love to have on the show because I've interviewed a handful of deathmatch guys. I've interviewed Tank. I've interviewed.
I love Tank.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was a
I
fun
just
interview.
wrestled him 2 days ago. It was awesome. It was something I've been wanting to do forever. I couldn't believe it.
Bull Bronson was another one, and actually the next guy on the list who was and still is a personal favorite of mine, and I actually now own signed ring worn kick pads of his, Alex Cologne.
Alex is one of the best, if not the best. I was fortunate when I kind of started into deathmatch wrestling. I got to wrestle Alex. It was the collective. It was for Paradigm Pro. A lot of people might not even really seen it. It wasn't as crazy as like some of the death matches I've done. But Alex was willing to go out there and give me a shot and do some stuff with me that I was really appreciative at the time. But now from where I've grown into, I've got to have one more match with him. Like I've got to wrestle him and show him what I can do now compared to where we were at then, and see if I can earn that respect. Because that's what it's all about for me, is earning the respect of the people that I respect or that I feel are the best guys in the world. I want to be the best in the world, like I said, but I can't be the best in the world if I don't have the respect of all the guys that are the best in the world, or if I don't, have their opinion of me being one of the best in the world, because everyone's gonna have their opinions. The best in the world is gonna be different. 20 people, 60% of them, they're all gonna have different opinions on who's the best. But if I could just be in that conversation, that's all that matters to me. But I do believe I gotta have that match with Alex, to prove that I can be on his level, because I haven't really got to do that yet.
No, and I mean, I know I sure would love to see that. I've been watching him since, good lord, it was right before Art of War games back. I think the one where you were in there against him.
Yeah, probably was it
The
the 440 MDK War Games?
Yes, the
Yeah,
one where wasn't it the one where towards the end Moxley ends up coming in and like with Cardona and
after our match, yep, Cardona comes out, Moxie wins the title for the first. Yep, that was the big Art of War, the big blow off 2 years, 440 versus Nick Gage. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
oh man, I remember getting introduced to Alex Colon like right before that, and God, I just knew, especially after that match in particular, I'm like, holy crap, I gotta have him on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And got lucky enough to. He was another one of those where I was thinking, this might be a bit of a reach, but I'll never know if I don't ask.
Exactly.
Funny thing, that's actually how I ended up getting a handful of the people that I've interviewed. I mentioned that's how I got the SATs. That's Alex.
Nice. Yeah.
We talked about Ring of Honor. That's how I got Kerry Silken.
Oh, awesome. That's great. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah, like it was shortly. I got him to say that he'd do it right before Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And it was funny because at the time I would, say, oh, this day I got a recording that I'm doing with so and so. And he said, you know, Tony Khan doesn't really like his guys to be doing random podcasts, but I told you I'd do yours, so just don't advertise it beforehand. I'm like,
awesome.
If that's what I got to do to get a guy like Kerry Silkin, that is fine by me.
That's cool. Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, man. Anyways, last category I have, I used to call it a speed round, but to be quite honest, it never went that damn quick. So I just changed it to a random question round. I asked, some might be wrestling related, some might not be. You answer how you. But first one, and this there might be a handful of answers for this one, but craziest in match moment.
Craziest in match moment. Oh man. I would say the one that sticks out the most to me, going back to Schlack at ICW, is in New Jersey. There was just a moment on the floor when we're throwing like bundles of 10-foot tall light tubes at each other, just relentlessly back and forth. And the entire crowd is just, I mean, eating it up, loving every minute of it. And that was like a moment for me where I was like, okay, I'm here now. Like people are gonna recognize me. This is that moment. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, no, I can totally imagine that being a crazy one. Like I've witnessed a few crazy moments, and in my talks for the show, I've heard some crazy moments from a guy like practically getting his nose ripped off to a guy that almost got his ear, would have gotten his ear.
That specific match, I actually have on my right thumb. I cannot no longer feel like the inside of it, like I guess like towards the meat of my hand. That whole side, I like cut a nerve, and I no longer have feeling there.
Oh,
it's kind of weird at first. Now it's normal. But yeah, so I forever have a scar and a memory from that match.
Oh, I can imagine.
Most people do. When you wrestle Slack, you usually have an injury that sticks with you forever.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh, we talked about Jake Chris earlier. Another crazy moment that I got that was actually at that Revolver show that I met him at was towards the end of the match. This was actually the end of it. They bridged 2 panes of glass on 4 chairs, and then
scaffold. Was that what they did off the scaffold?
It was off the top rope, but they lit the panes of glass on fire.
Right.
And I was just like, I remember when I saw Jake's manager bringing in the lighter. Just remember,
I love Bobby.
Oh God, my jaw was on the floor because I'm like, no way.
So you say that, and then I will say, yeah, another big moment for me was TOD, the final. If you haven't seen it yet, but I don't like heights at all. We went off a scaffold, which luckily wasn't that high, but it was still high enough when I was up there looking down. And yes, we went through a scaffold that was the first layer was light tubes, like 10-foot tubes. The second layer was a pane of glass. The third layer was a pane of glass, and then we lit the panes of glass on fire, and we went off the scaffold through them. So that was that was pretty wild too. I think it was a pretty good TOD finish actually too. It was actually, I think we were hoping it would also explode, but something went a little wrong with the explosion, but it didn't matter. I mean, the flaming glass off the scaffold, it was crazy. Mickey actually got knocked out cold doing that, so which was pretty wild. I'm laying like, are you okay? And she's just eyes open but lights out. You know,
nobody home.
Yeah, nobody home, not for a couple minutes at least. You know. Hopefully she came to, got up, and it was all good. But yeah, that was pretty crazy too.
Oh shit! I'm definitely gonna have to keep my eye out for when footage of where I can watch footage of that one, because I kind of want to see that moment.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Next question. And I've had some interesting answers to this one, and especially with the deathmatch guys. What is one type of weapon you want to avoid having in your matches?
Kendo sticks. I hate kendo sticks. For whatever reason, my brain and my skull do not gel well with a kendo stick. So when I take a kendo stick to the head, it's almost an instant concussion for me. I don't know why. They still suck to the back or whatever, like they hurt like a son of
Yeah.
a bitch. But kendo sticks, if I can get rid of them, I throw them out. Do not want to do them. That is, which is, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't say that, but for me, it is absolutely kendo sticks. I cannot stand them.
No, that
I
is
can
one.
understand a crowd getting into them because they do hurt, and they do make a good sound. But I've been concussed by kendo sticks more times than I can count, and I'm not a fan.
Oh, I can understand. I've seen some of the marks left behind by those. One of the more interesting answers to that I've actually had, the last name that we talked about on the name game list, Alex Cologne, he actually told me toothpicks.
Oh, I would never do toothpicks. I've never done them, but they are on the no list 100%. Atticus Koger, I know personally, obviously. He did a toothpicks with Masada at spring break. And I mean, for months, he was like picking toothpicks out of his body, and it was just not comfortable and not cool. Yeah,
Oh,
toothpicks are not.
I I can totally imagine, because when I talked with Alex Cologne about it, it's like, yeah, if you get lucky and when you're pulling them out, one stays intact, hey, fine, whatever. But you
Once they're broke off, you're screwed. Until they start
oh
to fester or come out, you have no luck. And you get
oh
them on a nerve or a muscle in the wrong spot.
oh yeah, like you break off the wrong part of that, now you got that damn thing
The
embedded
thing
in your.
with them, or even like pencils and stuff, to me, they don't. You really can't see what they're doing. Maybe
Yeah,
if you're there in person, but like on video, it's hard to even really see like the impact of it. You just kind of see the aftermath, and it doesn't really make a loud noise. To me it's just painful for no reason. I mean,
yeah.
if someone sticks a toothpick in my arm, I'm not gonna like lose and you can count three. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just stupid in a way. To me, it just kind of doesn't make sense.
No, there's definitely, if you're wanting to go for a reaction and you have that noise, there are definitely those weapons that you'll get that more
Mhm.
often than light tubes.
Carpet strips. I'll use them. It is what it is, or the tack strips, but like they don't make a noise. They break pretty easy. But they suck. So it's like you don't really get the reaction you want from carpet strips. Maybe if you build like some kind of carpet strip contraption or something, that's a little bit better. But just swinging carpet strips at each other, it sucks, and it doesn't get the same reaction as other things.
Oh yeah, well, there's so many other weapons you can get that reaction. You have a crowd that might be silent for a moment, but you have those weapons that once they break, they're making that crash or that noise, and get those people up, and you you definitely would, I imagine, prefer that over those like toothpicks,
Absolutely.
all that.
Yep, absolutely.
Next one, favorite thing for after a match, whether it be a specific drink or food you want to have or whatever it might be.
Um, So when I am in New Jersey, New Yorkish area, I know specifically me and most of the 440 guys, we love a Wawa milkshake. Um, Wawa is not as good as Sheets, and I don't even care for Sheets. They both kind of suck, but their milkshakes are on point. So a Wawa milkshake is yes, it's great. I also for some reason love like just a good straight classic Coca-Cola after a wrestling match. I don't know why, and I mean, an ice cold beer never hurts, for
Oh,
sure.
hey, can't really go wrong with that. I mean, there are those instances where a little, when you're not wanting to go for a alcoholic beverage, Coke, good old Coca Cola does kind of hit the spot sometimes. I'm kind of more of a,
Classic Coca-Cola, especially like a nice fountain Coca-Cola, man. There,
oh,
when you're parched, you just had a good match. There ain't nothing much better than that. Like I said, maybe a Wawa milkshake, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm more of a Dr. Pepper fiend myself, but if places out of their like fountain, their
I like
Dr.
Dr. Pepper Zero a lot. That shit's pretty good.
the zero sugar, the I'm a fan of the zero sugar cherry ones.
Yes, those are the best. Yep.
That
Yeah.
is my go-to there. Anyways, last question on this category, last real thing for the episode. Best advice for anybody getting into wrestling?
Um, I would say there's a lot of people that come and go. Um, I think a lot of people that I don't know if they just think they want to be a wrestler or they think it's something they can do and they can make money. There's not going to be much money in it for most people, probably ever. Um, I would say it's a rough road and it's a tough life if it's something you want to do for your life. So make sure that you absolutely want to do it. That being a professional wrestler is something that you're willing to sacrifice. Family time, your physical well-being, all that kind of stuff. You're going to be sacrificing that kind of stuff for this business. You're going to be sacrificing money. Um, so if you absolutely want to do it, with all that being said, then please do it. Um, Find a school, a reputable school, get trained properly. Don't get ahead of yourself. I know deathmatch wrestling is kind of a popular thing, and I see a lot of young guys. How do I get into deathmatch wrestling? You don't get into deathmatch wrestling. You get into professional wrestling. You learn how to be a professional wrestler first, and then you can be. If you want to dabble in the deathmatch side of it, that's fine. Because the best deathmatch wrestlers, we were good professional wrestlers, and we tell stories, and we still wrestle. Good deathmatch wrestling is still professional wrestling. It's just got different props. It's like a hardcore match, but with more crazy props. And the Attitude Era, there's a reason that was the most popular era of wrestling. And that's why deathmatch is where it's at. But just for anybody that wants to get into it, don't let if it's absolutely what you want to do, then do it. Don't let age, gender, time, don't let anything hold you back. Go for it. Be prepared for the ups and downs. Be prepared for your body to give up on you, to lose a bunch of money. But if it's what you ultimately want to do and you're willing to put the time in, I think it's still the most rewarding thing that you'll be able to do if you choose that route and if it's what you really want to do. I always told myself if I could wrestle in front of two paying people, one paying person, they paid to come to a show that I was on, then in my eyes, I made it as a professional wrestler. Like I don't have to be on television every week or travel the world. If someone paid to come to a show that somebody put me on, then in a way I kind of made it, at least in a way. And then obviously from there, I wanted to just kind of grow and be better. But live your dream if you want to live it. Just be prepared to put in the work and deal
Yeah.
with the consequences because it's an unforgiving business. It can be a cutthroat business at times, but it can also be extremely rewarding. Like I said about playing football on Friday nights and then doing a wrestling match, and that's the only way I get that feeling. That's the only way through wrestling. So yeah,
I completely agree. Kind of same when people would ask me about, enlisting in the military. I always would just tell them, make sure it's what you want to do because you're going to be missing stuff when you're gone that you might not be able to make it back for. But if it's something you want, then,
yeah, exactly. Ultimately, like when I told you, I joined the military and then I didn't actually go to basic training or whatever. It came down to a few different things. Like there was I didn't really get a job. There was jobs I wanted. I couldn't get a job. I knew when I went in, I wanted to be able to come out with something. I didn't want to just go infantry and not really have a lot. So I kind of got jerked around. It came to a point where it's like, well, we'll give you the best jobs available when you get the basic training. And like, well, these aren't going to be the jobs I want. So I ultimately didn't want to do it. So I didn't. And
yeah,
that's what a lot of people need to realize with wrestling or anything in life. if you absolutely 100% want to do it, then do it. Do not let yourself be stopped. Go after it. But if you're on the fence about it, then maybe don't pursue it, especially wrestling or, like you said, the military, because those are things that are going to take years off your life. You're going to have no control over a lot of stuff. So if you don't
Yeah.
want to do it, maybe think about it. But if you want to, absolutely 100% go after your dreams, no matter
Oh
what.
yeah. I imagine pretty much same for wrestling. I would always tell people you're gonna have moments that you're gonna wonder what the and I'm not monetized yet, so I don't care about language, but I tell people you're gonna have moments where you're gonna wonder what the fuck am I doing?
Absolutely.
But you can
Me,
push.
me, me and Eric Ryan were talking about this actually over the weekend. We still have those moments. We had those moments this past weekend when we're sitting there putting our gear on and we're going, why do we do this? I'm looking at him like, Eric, I don't want to wrestle. And he's like, neither do I. And I'm like, why? But then we go out and do it. And then we remember why we love it and why we do it, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I would tell people in those instances, it's like once you push past that, you'll find moments like kind of what you just mentioned, where you'll be reminded of why you're doing what you're doing.
And in my opinion, life is about moments. That's
Yeah.
all it's about. It's about moments. It's about things that you can remember, to take with you, and things that, people close to you can remember. And just certain specific special moments. That's all it is.
Oh
You only get so much time, so
yeah,
as many special moments as you can have. That's what's important.
totally agree. Well, like I said, excuse me, that is about all I had for tonight. I want to, one, first, thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. And two, where can people find you social media wise so they can, get
People
guys on?
ask me this all the time on these things. I'm really bad at this stuff. Social media is not my forte. I'm good at hitting the retweet button. That's about it. But Twitter, I believe it's just Bobby Beverly. I do have Instagram. I really don't utilize it, but I know there's a lot of clips and things that get put on there. I believe that is the Bobby Beverly. And then I don't, Facebook, it's just a personal Facebook, Bobby Smith. You can probably find it if you look real hard. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, again, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And, you know, you're definitely another one of those that I will say you are welcome back anytime.
I appreciate that. Let's do it again soon. Heck yeah.